Today's episode is brought to you by the Daily Gardener Friday newsletter. You can sign up for the newsletter over at thedailygardener.org. Hi there, and welcome to The Daily Gardener, a podcast featuring garden history and literature. I'm Jennifer Ebling, and today is February 16th. Today in garden history, back in 1911, Marie Clark Taylor, the American botanist, was born. In 1941, she became the first woman to earn a PhD in botany from Fordham University. She spent her career at Howard University, becoming a beloved professor and mentor. Marie herself taught biology at Cardozo High School in Washington, D.C. early in her career, and at Howard, she was passionate about training future generations of science teachers. And every summer, her Summer Science Institute trained high school teachers to become better at teaching biology. Today, an auditorium at Howard University is named in her honor, Marie Clark Taylor. And today is the birthday of David Austin, the beloved English rose breeder and writer. He was born on this day in 1926. His technique was to breed roses with the best of both the old and new roses, blending the charm and fragrance of heirloom roses and the repeat blooms and color options of modern roses. To his excellent staff, David Austin was known simply as Mr. A. David died in December of 2018 at the age of 92. And today, David Austin Roses is run by his son David and his grandson Richard. His niece is landscape architect, journalist, and radio personality Bunny Guinness. And in case you're wondering, her mother was David's sister. David once said, "The work of the plant breeder should always be to enhance nature, not to detract from it. We should strive to develop the rose's beauty in flower, growth, and leaf." And it was on this day in 1971 that the New Jersey state flower, the violet, was officially adopted by the legislature after a proposal from Senator Josephine Margetts. Josephine and her husband Walter owned a nursery and an apple and peach orchard. And so it's not surprising to learn that Josephine was a crusader for the environment. She introduced legislation to protect the land and waterways of New Jersey. She even worked to ban the use of DDT. By the time Josephine had put forth her legislation for the violet, New Jersey was the last state in the Union without an official state flower. When it became time for Josephine's bill to be debated, Senator Joseph J. Mariziti read this poem. "Roses are red, violets are blue. If you vote for this bill, Mrs. Margetts will love you." In the end, Josephine's legislation was passed 30-1. The sole dissenting vote was Senator Frank Guerini. He told the press, "I'm a marigold man." As Josephine no doubt knew, violets are spring flowers. They've been around for a long time. Even the ancient Greeks loved violets. In floriography, or the language of flowers, the violet's heart-shaped leaves reveal their meaning: affection, love, faith, and dignity. And the color of violets adds another layer of meaning. Blue violets especially symbolize love, while white violets symbolize purity, and yellow violets symbolize goodness and high esteem. It's time to grow that garden library with today's book, Sleepy Cat Farm by Carolyn Seebohm. This book came out in late 2021, and the subtitle is A Gardener's Journey. The Sleepy Cat Farm story begins in 1994 on 6 acres of land purchased by a retired CEO. Over 20 years later, those 6 acres have become a sprawling baker's dozen. And with the help of landscape architect Charles Stick, Fred Landman transformed Sleepy Cat into a true garden lover's experience. And I do believe it's my new favorite garden, and I haven't even seen it yet, just what I've seen in the book. Now, the connective tissue between all of the garden spaces at Sleepy Cat is the golden path that swoops past all of the signature elements in the garden, like a grotto, a celestial pavilion, a garden devoted to Japanese iris, a spirit bridge, a koi pond, a reflection pool, a maze, serpentine hedges fashioned out of European hornbeam, and an enormous Atlas statue, just to name a few. That's not even everything you'll see at Sleepy Cat. And so, needless to say, the garden at Sleepy Cat has become a popular stop for gardeners in Greenwich, Connecticut, and Fred himself is often found leading tours. If Sleepy Cat sounds like it appeared out of nowhere, well, it kind of did. There's also a bit of a mismatch, I think, between the name Sleepy Cat and the place's grandeur. It is quite the garden. And in case you're wondering, the name Sleepy Cat is a reference to the dozen cats that get to live there. Lucky cats. Well, even Ken Drews, who wrote the foreword to this book, was a bit dubious about Sleepy Cat the very first time he was invited to visit, as was the photographer for the book, Curtis Taylor. And as Ken shares in the foreword, Curtis has a way of figuring out if a garden is worth his time. And so what he does is he'll casually ask the garden's owner, "How many daffodils have you planted recently?" Well, when he asked Fred this very question, the answer was only 5,000. Well, needless to say, he passed the test, and Curtis happily went to Sleepy Cat. And so today we have this book, which is a combination of the narration written by Carolyn Seabaum and then the stunning images by Curtis Taylor that make the Sleepy Cat story unforgettable. In fact, if you don't want to visit Sleepy Cat after getting this book, after going through it, then you are not a gardener. So say I. This book is 192 pages of a garden transformation that would make Beatrix Farrand smile. You can get a copy of Sleepy Cat Farm by Carolyn Seabaum and support the show using the Amazon link in today's show notes for $30. And trust me, it's worth every penny. Finally, here's today's Botanic Spark that features Elizabeth Gilbert. It was on this day back in 2006 that Elizabeth's memoir, Eat, Pray, Love, was released. The book chronicled her trip around the world after her divorce, and it was on the New York Times bestseller list for 187 weeks, and then made into a movie in 2010, starring Julia Roberts and Javier Bardem. Now, in the book, there's this wonderful passage about zucchini blossoms, and I thought I would end the show today by sharing this with you. And just to set the stage, she's at a restaurant when they bring her these zucchini blossoms. Here's what she wrote. Then there was a pop surprise bonus side order brought over by the waitress for free. A serving of fried zucchini blossoms with a soft dab of cheese in the middle, prepared so delicately that the blossoms probably didn't even notice they weren't on the vine anymore. Well, that's it for today's show. Just a reminder that you have a standing invitation to join the Facebook group for listeners of the show. The next time you're over at Facebook, just search for Daily Gardener Community, where you'd search for a friend and request to join. And if you'd like more of The Daily Gardener, you can subscribe to the newsletter over at thedailygardener.org, where you can also show your support for the show by donating to The Daily Gardener. This is Jennifer Ebling. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener. And remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day.